The anime begins with the Sakurata family with 9 children, where the morning atmosphere at the house is very busy. Even when they want to go to school, they have to fight over the bathroom, and after that, they have breakfast together. Even so, it turns out that they are a royal family, but their father asked them to live a life like other ordinary people. After everything is ready, they walk to school together. On the way, one of the king's daughters, Akane Sakurata, has a shy personality and childhood trauma. She doesn't want to be known as a king's daughter and is not exposed to anything because their father has installed thousands of CCTV on the street to observe his children. This even scared Akane because some said the CCTV footage would make her the center of attention, especially since an election would be held as the king's successor. When Akane felt scared, a male king's son named Shu Sakurata and a woman named Kanade Sakurata chose to go to school first, leaving her. Meanwhile, another king's daughter, Aoi Sakurata, chooses to stay with Akane and persuades her to go to school. After that, Aoi tried to divert the CCTV from Akane, but still, the camera was always pointed at her. Feeling that she had troubled Aoi, Akane took out her strength to ask her to fly. When she arrived at school, Aoi was immediately surrounded by students because she had many friends and fans, unlike Akane, who was less popular at her school because she felt comfortable being alone. After school, Akane and Aoi were surprised by the appearance of a mugger. At first, Akane was scared, but after finding out that the man was a snatcher, she was annoyed and chased him using her power. Fortunately, she managed to catch him. Because of that incident, she was finally in the spotlight again, and even her actions made the news on television. It was very disturbing for her, but for her sibling, it was very good because it could be a consideration for their father to appoint them as the successor to the throne. Not long after their father came home, he said their family received an invitation to appear on television this week. At the appointed time, they came to the television station. Afterward, the 9 kings' children had to play games and collect the dolls on top of the building. They must use their respective strengths. If they lose, they must clean all the toilets in the kingdom. The 7th child, a man named Teru Sakurata, immediately released his limitless power. Not long after came a woman named Hikari Sakurata. She has the power that her hands can change the shape and size of an object. She made the trees around her grow big and planned to climb them to the top of the building. Afterward, a daughter named Kanade. She can take out whatever object she wants, but her savings will be reduced because it counts for buying the item. Meanwhile, a woman named Masaki Sakurata has the power to create shadow moves. The king's daughter, Shiori Sakurata, has the power to talk to objects or animals, whereas Aoi has the power of absolute order. That person will obey when she orders anything, while Shu can teleport and disappear, and a man named Haruka Sakurata can predict the future. When the race started, only Akane hadn't done anything because she didn't want to be caught by the camera and didn't care if she won or lost. Then, Haruka reminded her that there were too many toilets in their kingdom, and cleaning the royal toilets would be very tiring. Hearing this, Akane realized and started to seriously race. After that, they flew up the building to hit Teru and Shu, who were relaxing. When they arrived at the top of the building, it turned out that the dolls were no longer there, so Akane was certain to lose and would be punished. In the next race, there is a vote or voting from the audience about their daily personality. Unexpectedly, Akane got the second most votes after she managed to catch a thief yesterday. But she was even saddened by her achievement because she just wanted to be an ordinary human who was not famous. Arriving at the kingdom, they had dinner together. Shortly after, their father said that as the kingdom's successor, they must have determination and responsibility because they are figures for the country. On the other hand, Akane still looked sad and sat on the terrace of her room. Not long after that, Aoi came to encourage her. She says that if Akane succeeds in becoming queen, she can remove all the CCTV on the streets. After hearing her words, Akane began wanting to become a queen. After that, Akane and Hikari were ordered to clean the toilet because they had lost the race yesterday. Soon after, they were both approached by a female royal servant. She warned them to prepare immediately because there would be an official royal event. The next day, they started their activities as usual. While brushing their teeth, they discussed that every class representative must gather with the student council members today. Afterward, Akane and Kanade rushed to the school, but Kanade refused when they had to go with her because it would take a long time to go to school with her. But Akane didn't care. She continued to chase Kanade so they could go to school together. On the way, Kanade looks uncomfortable because Akane still looks scared, but Akane promises that if she becomes queen, she will get rid of all the CCTV. Kanade replied that if Akane became queen, she would be even more popular and even be in the spotlight of the whole world. Because of that, she hesitates to become a queen and asks Kanade to become queen, and she hopes Kanade will get rid of all those CCTVs. CCTV on the street force them to be friendly to everyone. Kanade asks why the shy Akane can be the class representative. According to her friends, she is known by everyone to have the ability to be a mediator. Whatever happens, she will definitely intervene. From there, Kanade feels that Akane has the nature of a king. Suddenly, Akane hugged her tightly while walking. She was afraid that Kanade would leave her. Because Kanade was uncomfortable, she told her to let go, and after she let go, Kanade used the opportunity to run away from her. Kanade suggested flying, but Akane didn't want to because her inner body would be seen later. Shortly after, a cat was crossing the road that was about to get hit by a truck. Akane reflexively helped the cat and was almost hit by the truck. Luckily, Kanade bought an object to hold the truck. Fortunately, Akane is safe. Shortly after, Kanade and Akane arrived at school. Kanade felt they had taken a lot of time earlier during the trip. Worse yet, Kanade had to spend money in her savings to buy a truck barrier object of around 40 million yen. Knowing this, Akane will replace Kanade's money in installments to pay for it. There is a new female student in the class named Sato, but not many students know her. Even though she remembers her old friends' faces, they don't remember her. It turns out that there is one guy who still remembers her because they were in the same class, namely Shu. Hearing this, Sato began to like him and was touched because there were still people who remembered her. With a happy feeling, she hugged him. On the other hand, the 9 children of the king determined the tasks to be done weekly. Akane hopes she doesn't have the task of going shopping because there are so many cameras out there, but unfortunately, she gets to go shopping again. Shu, who got the cleaning task, was willing to switch tasks with Akane, but her hair ponytail had to be changed in the next 3 weeks, and she agreed. The next day, Sato was already waiting for Shu's arrival in class. Not long after, Shu was suddenly in front of her because he had teleported. Strangely, he was the one who was surprised by her presence there until the drink spilled onto her clothes. However, she didn't mind it. She immediately changed clothes in the bathroom with her 2 female friends while talking about Shu. After finishing, they moved and conversed in the school hallway. At the same time, Shu passed by, then Sato's 2 friends pushed her body to hug him. Feeling embarrassed, she finally ran away from there, while Shu felt strange about her attitude. When she came home from school, Sato felt like she had forgotten something. Looking back, she forgot to say goodbye to Shu, so she tried to find him. When they meet, she sees him coming home with a woman. Sato doesn't know that the woman is Akane because her hairstyle has changed. She followed them because she was still curious and thought the woman was Shu's girlfriend. Soon after, Shu and Akane felt that there was someone following them. When they entered the narrow alley, Sato followed them. She reasoned that she was worried about him because she liked him. Hearing this, Shu became embarrassed and still didn't believe it. Still, he replied that he was only focused on choosing to become the king's successor because he objected if Kanade became queen. Sato replied that she would continue to wait for his answer even though she waited until the king's election was over. Hearing that, Shu agreed. Then they separated and went home respectively. That night, Sato was on the phone with her friend to tell her about her incident with Shu. Unexpectedly, he called her that night just to say goodnight. She thought that he liked her too. Shu really likes her because he thinks her appearance is fairly simple, while Akane thinks about Shu and Sato's love path if the two of them are really dating. On the other hand, Akane is also curious about why Shu doesn't want Kanade to become queen. Long story short, Hikari is determined to become the next queen, even though she is currently ranked 5th. On the other hand, Akane was on duty to do some shopping again. She wasn't really excited to leave the house. Kanade then asked her siblings if they were going to campaign, and they all said they would campaign. But Aoi hasn't thought about campaigning yet. Strangely, even though Aoi hasn't done anything yet, she is currently ranked number 1. Hikari said that she would change her appearance into an adult so that people would be interested in choosing her. Unfortunately, people already know that Hikari is only 10 years old. After their conversation was over, she decided to accompany Akane shopping. On the way to the market, Hikari also took action so that she was highlighted by CCTV. Akane told her, but when she talked, Hikari instead saw a cat and preferred to follow the cat. As a result, Akane, who continued to tell stories, just realized that Hikari wasn't there. Turned out, she was already in the city center. Akane panicked and then tried to ask the people around her about Hikari's whereabouts. However, because she unwittingly put on a scary face, people were scared. On the other hand, Hikari followed the cat to the top of the tree. With her small body, she always failed when climbing the tree. She changes her body into an adult to reach the cat, but the cat is frightened when it sees her changing. After searching and asking other people, Akane finally managed to find Hikari. Seeing her appearance, Akane was surprised because she thought it wasn't her. As they are about to continue their shopping trip, Hikari gets into trouble because her clothes are now narrow. Then they exchange clothes by turning Akane's body into a child. Because all of this, they both failed to shop that day. In the evening, a reckoning was held on television, but Hikari's position did not rise even though she had helped a cat. She just realized that there was no CCTV in her place to help the cat earlier. The following week, Akane got another shopping assignment. Teru wanted to have other tasks because he was always considered a child by his sibling. Teru finally offered to let him go shopping. Shu also agrees with that, but he wants to accompany Teru shopping because he knows Teru is very careless. After that, Akane felt a little embarrassed because it was her sibling who went shopping. Knowing this, Shu told Akane and Hikari to follow. When he had just left the house, Teru was careless because he forgot to bring the shopping bag. Luckily, Shiori brought the shopping bag. When Teru was barked at by a dog, Shiori immediately asked the dog to talk to avoid disturbing him, so the dog obeyed. On the way, Shiori notices that they are both being followed by Hikari and Akane in disguise, but Teru doesn't even recognize them. They came out of hiding. They warned Teru and Shiori to be careful. After that, they left. Arriving at the supermarket, Teru forgot to bring his shopping list, even though Shiori saw the paper in his jacket pocket. Soon afterward, they went shopping according to the list and went straight home after finishing. On the way home, they were confronted by a stray dog. Unfortunately, Shiori couldn't communicate with the dog. Feeling hungry, the dog immediately attacked her. Seeing this, Teru was angry and beat the dog to make it run away. After that, they both continued their journey home quietly. The next day, Hikari is still thinking about how to make her popular. Coincidentally, her friends were watching an idol concert on television, making Hikari want to become an idol. Arriving home, she learned how to register as an idol. It turned out that elementary school students had to get assistance from their parents and couldn't register alone. Because of that, Hikari intends to change her body into an adult and borrow her older sister's clothes. While choosing clothes, Haruka caught Hikari. Therefore, she was forced to tell him that she wanted to register as an idol and intended to borrow her siblings' clothes. Hearing that, Haruka wanted to help her, so he said he would accompany her during auditions. The next day, Haruka accompanied Hikari to the audition. After appearing, they are now waiting for the results. Unexpectedly, Hikari managed to pass the first audition. After that, she will participate in the second audition. However, it turns out that Hikari borrowed her friend's name. Her friend is Sakuraba, who was already a junior in high school. When she re-registered, Hikari was asked to submit her identity card with Sakuraba's name. Because she didn't have one, Hikari finally gave a student card who was still in elementary school, and the name was not Sakuraba. As a result, she was disqualified. After feeling disappointed, she decided to go home with Haruka. Arriving at the park, Haruka wants to go to the toilet first, and unexpectedly two men offer Hikari to become an idol. She immediately accepted their offer and went to the idol training ground. They are interested in Hikari, and what's even more amazing is that there is also a female idol that she watched yesterday. Hikari was pleased. Then the two men wanted to chat with her parents, but her cell phone wasn't there because Haruka had carried it away. Finally, they wanted to go to her parents' house instead. When they were about to leave the training building, Haruka approached Hikari. They were surprised to find out that Hikari was the king's daughter. However, they still come to her house, and she begs her father to allow her to become an idol. It turned out that her father also wanted it, so Hikari could debut. The only problem is that Hikari uses someone else's name, not her own, so it's useless because her fans don't know her real identity. At night, Akane is woken up by Hikari's hungry cat. Akane gives food, but the cat prefers to eat plastic instead. In the morning, Akane asks Shiori to translate why the cat doesn't like royal food. Then Shiori told her that the cat was initially grateful for being adopted, but the food she gave was not good for him. Arriving at school, a woman named Karen is a close friend of Akane's. She notices something strange with Akane that morning. It turned out that Akane came late to school without wearing a skirt. It seemed she was in a hurry. Karen also felt confused about what to say to her. If Karen told her about it, she was afraid Akane would overreact, so she waited for someone else to reprimand her. Incidentally, another friend reminded her. Then her friends offered Akane to wear a skirt or pants, and she chose to wear a skirt. The news about Akane immediately spread to Kanade, who was worried when she heard the news that her little sister was not wearing a skirt. Aoi also immediately called Akane, but her cell phone was left behind, even though things needed more attention than the cell phone. Not long after she was called by Kanade to go to the student council room, Karen also wanted to accompany her for fear of something happening. The male students immediately rushed to the stairs because the position room was on the third floor, so they could see it from below. Fukushina had warned them that their actions were sinful, but they ignored her. After that, there was an announcement from the student council about community service to clean up the city. The other students found it strange why the student council president rarely appeared. Instead, Kanade was always represented. It turned out that Akane was already lazy in community service for fear of being seen by many people. Fukushina, who saw Akane embarrassed, invited her to negotiate to do community service in the school environment. Not long after, there was a male student called Fukushina as a leader. Then, he gave his book to Akane and left her to enter a room. They planned to make Akane work around her school only. Afterward, Fukushina tried to meet Kanade and tried to protest. Unfortunately, she disagreed with his suggestion. Long story short, it was time for community service in the city. Then the student council president appeared. Fukushina was very excited to see Akane, who always put on a shy face like that. After the community service, Akane went home to lie down. Suddenly Hikari's cat sleeps on her stomach because her stomach reminds the cat of a place near the garbage dump. When dinner arrived, the cat was running scared because it thought it would be cooked and eaten by them. The next day, the 9 siblings took a vacation to their father's private beach. At that time, Misaki dares the others to break the watermelon. Then, Haruka begins to predict the possibility of the person who will win. He guesses that Shiori will win. However, Kanade doesn't believe it because it hasn't been proven 100% correct. She also has a 50% chance of winning. When they all tried, it seemed that no one had managed to hit the watermelon. She was excited to try it. She was determined to break Haruka's prediction, but when she started hitting it, it turned out that her hit failed to hit the watermelon. Now it was Shiori's turn to try it. It was proven that she could talk to the watermelon, and the watermelon was willingly hit by her. Because she couldn't bear it, Shiori hit her lightly, then the watermelon was split very neatly. After that, Hikari invites them to play beach volleyball, and Shu warns them not to go too far. Just as he spoke, the ball was thrown far away. When Akane was about to pick it up, there was a wall. Shu informed her that they were not on the south coast but on an artificial beach on vacant land. If they go to the original beach, security will be in trouble, but the water and sand there are real. Hearing that, Akane didn't mind it. The most important thing was that they could all have fun together. They were all curious and knocked on the wall. As a result, the wall was opened. Coincidentally, there were also many people around the land, and she immediately screamed in embarrassment. Arriving at the house, Akane heard that Haruka was grumbling. When Akane approached his room, it turned out that he was looking at a photo of Akane wearing a bikini on the beach earlier. As the two of them stared at each other, they shouted at each other in surprise. She threatened to report it to Misaki until Misaki came alone to his room because she heard a noise. Finally, Haruka explained that he looked at a royal members fan site. On that site, there were a lot of Akane's photos that became their conversation. Even he didn't tell her because he didn't want Akane to feel embarrassed. He had also asked them to delete their post. After knowing this, she screams and doesn't want to leave the house. While at school, Misaki was looking at her busy schedule of activities because she joined several clubs. As a result, she took her shadow power to attend all club events, while the real Misaki would go to represent the school newspaper interview because her sisters were all busy. The shadows come from Misaki's personality, but they have different skills. During an interview, Misaki was asked a question about her sibling, who was so talented. As they were about to answer simultaneously, all of her shadows returned and caused a commotion in the interview room. After the interview was over, she invited Haruka to go home together. While walking home, Misaki seems to get praise from several clubs for her shadow moves that have helped her friends a lot, even though the real her is not as talented as her shadow. Arriving at the house, Misaki was asked to do another interview by Akane, and she agreed. But when she was in the room, Misaki was grumbling to herself because she always had to do the interview. She felt very tired and upset today, but there was no one she could talk to. As a result, she brought out her shadow to talk to, but what actually got praise at school was that the shadow was not herself, especially since people often talked about her sister's talent in front of Misaki, which made her uncomfortable. Soon, Akane opened the door to Misaki's room to call out to her, but she didn't want to be disturbed this time, so her shadow took her place. Her shadows tried to calm her down. They said that they were created from Misaki's body, so if they were praised, it would be the same as praising the real her. Akane returned to Misaki's room because her shadow gave a perverted answer. That way, the real Misaki was forced to go down and do the interview herself. Long story short, Akane hasn't even started a campaign yet. But when her other siblings campaigned, she was forced to do it too, and even though she was nervous, she did it anyway. Her sibling was surprised to learn that Akane was doing a campaign broadcast on television. Teru and Kanade have also carried out a campaign, while Misaki and Haruka still have no plans. After that, Misaki met with her shadow about what they would do when campaigning. On the other hand, she also doesn't know what to do if she is elected as queen, while her other siblings already have goals. The next day, Kanade, who was practicing baseball, saw Shu sitting alone under a tree by the side of the field. Kanade remembered when he was a child when Shu was very stubborn and forbade him and Akane to play outside the house. But they were still forced to play out. Kanade also tried to hold Akane to keep playing on the field with her. She used her powers to create a mask and roses given to Akane, and then she made a castle. When Akane wanted to be invited up to the top of the palace, Kanade forced Shu to build a ladder. But the palace collapsed instead, so he had to help Akane from the ruins. Since then, he couldn't do strenuous exercise. During the weekly division of tasks, Akane got the task of shopping again. But this time, she tries to accept it and considers it a test. She will go shopping on her own. After that, Misaki asked Shu about his reasons for wanting to become king. Shu replied that he still didn't know his reasons. Therefore, he had not campaigned either. Shortly after, while Misaki and Haruka were out for a walk, they saw the other siblings had started their campaign for the position of king. Only Misaki had not done anything and thought of her reasons for wanting to become king. Arriving home, Misaki and Haruka went to their room to discuss the campaign with her shadow. But Misaki thought that if her siblings wanted to become kings for their own satisfaction, she said she was concerned with the country rather than herself. However, her shadow doesn't believe her words because, according to them, Misaki is still as selfish as the others. But according to Haruka, Misaki is the type of person who thinks about others first than her own. On the other hand, Kanade is still looking for ways to make herself known to many people. That day, she visited a kindergarten school, but there was a small child there who supported Aoi. So far, Kanade also feels that her toughest rival is Aoi. Moreover, she is always in first place in the voting. When they were all home in the afternoon, Akane looked like she had just returned from campaigning. In the evening, Kanade came to Aoi's room. She asked if Aoi intended to become king because she had not done anything. Kanade asked her for an answer. Besides that, she was also curious about Aoi's true strength. Aoi replies that she can remember anything she sees, so she scores well, but for Kanade, it's not strength, then she leaves Aoi. The next morning when Aoi was going to put up a poster at school, she was helped by her friends. She remembers the first time she found out about her strength when she ordered her friends to do something. Immediately they all obeyed. After being examined by her father, it turns out that Aoi has the power of absolute order, but her strength may be lost in a short time because it is not perfect. Not long after Aoi finished putting up the poster, she wanted to treat her friends who had helped her, but they refused and preferred to just join venture. Hearing that, she was happy because not all the orders she gave were always obeyed by others. While eating at the restaurant, Aoi saw that Akane was home alone. Because she was scared, she finally joined Aoi and her friends. On the way home, Akane also received praise from them for daring to the campaign. After they parted ways, Akane said that all of Aoi's friends were very good. Maybe they are friends not because Aoi is the king's daughter but because they are sincere friends with her no matter the circumstances. Long story short, suddenly, their house was heavily guarded because their father would go out and leave their 3 children at home. It happened because their father worried something might happen, especially when Akane was sick. Kanade assured her father they could take care of themselves because they had superpowers, but her father advised them not to use that power carelessly. After her father left, he kept asking the guards about his daughters at home. On the other hand, Kanade and Shiori were relaxing in the living room, reading a book. Then she said goodbye to Shiori to check on Akane's condition in her room. Suddenly Akane shouted that she thought Kanade was in danger. It turned out that she was reading manga. After being checked using a thermometer, her body temperature increased, so Kanade told her to rest and sleep. Before Kanade left her room, Akane had asked about the king's management, but she told her to just rest. After that, Kanade asked Shiori to make porridge for Akane. After the porridge was cooked, they immediately took it to her room and tried to check her body, which turned out to be increasing again. Because of that, Kanade panicked and didn't know what to do. She wanted to try to get her strength out, but Akane was angry and there was an argument between them. Shiori, who heard the fight, immediately kissed Akane until she was unconscious. Shiori did that because she imitated her parents' behavior when she was sick. After that, Kanade reads a story to Shiori so she can sleep, but she still doesn't want to sleep. Soon there was a sound from the second floor. Kanade tried to check it, and it turned out that Akane was not in her room, but soon she appeared. Not long after, Kanade heard another voice again in another room. To Kanade's surprise, she electrocuted the person, who turned out to be Shu. He was picking up what he had left behind. As a result of that incident, all of a sudden, the guards came in, making Kanade feel angry and waiting for her father to come home. At night, Akane looks better. She asks Kanade to sleep with Shiori instead, but Shiori asked Kanade to accompany Akane first until she fell asleep. After that, Kanade returned to Shiori's room. On the other hand, Hikari, who has become an idol, is making a fairly successful concert. She already seems to have talent, even though it's not optimal yet. According to the manager, Hikari will be a tough opponent for a female idol named Sachan. While Hikari got very low grades at school, her friends thought that if she was busy taking care of the kingdom, it turned out that she was busy with idols, so she couldn't learn school lessons. After school, Hikari went to the manager to evaluate the previous concert, which seemed to still have a problem. Soon after, Sachan came, but she was cold to Hikari. However, Hikari was still trying to get closer to her. Afterward, the manager said they would have a full-day double concert to increase their popularity, who would be their fans. Then, they said they were both ready. After the concert, Sachan gave an evaluation. According to her, the concert was good, but the feeling Hikari had was not delivered well to the audience. In other words, she is still thinking about herself. Then Sachan said goodbye to go to practice, but Hikari thought she was angry with her. The manager also said that Sachan used to have no idol talent. However, she continued to train from scratch and worked hard to get to where she is now, unlike Hikari, who has talent and just keeps honing it. In the practice room, they were far from each other and did not speak. Arriving at home, Hikari also tries to improve her achievement at school by studying hard at home. Akane then approached her. She wanted to see Hikari's concert later and get to know Sachan, but Hikari wouldn't allow it. Finally, Hikari's test scores went up drastically thanks to her hard work and studying. After that, Hikari will hold her concert, which seems to be very crowded with her fans. Sachan and Hikari are ready. Sachan says that she will perform for the fans and for herself. Then the two of them went off stage, and according to their manager, their concert was very successful, and now it's just a matter of preparing for the evening concert. In the evening, the concert began. Sachan and Hikari look all out when they act on stage, but Sachan thinks Hikari doesn't feel tired. Sachan didn't want to lose, so she immediately took action, but unfortunately, she sprained her leg, and as a result, they had to stop their concert temporarily. Not long after the manager came, he asked Sachan not to appear again while Hikari was asked to improvise to appear alone. When Hikari performed, she almost fell, but she improvised and kept singing. As a result, that night, Hikari successfully conquered the stage until the audience cheered. Sachan also acknowledges her success, even though she apologizes for acting only for herself when they should be a team. Not long after, the manager came to Hikari in Sachan's room. He informed that someone suspicious had entered the changing room, then fled using the power of flight. Hikari was surprised and found out that it must be Akane. On the other hand, when Sato came home with Shu, he suddenly disappeared from beside her. At that time, the entire Sakurata family seemed to lose control of their power. According to the info, it only lasted one day. Soon, Akane gets an email from Sato asking her for help. The next day, Akane came to their meeting place in the park, then Sato came late, which annoyed her. At that time, Akane still couldn't control her power, then Sato asked her to talk about Shu. She asked her opinion if she was familiar with the royal family and whether it was appropriate or not. Akane felt uncomfortable when talking about the matter. She asked her to discuss it with Kanade instead, but she thought Kanade was too scary for her. While walking to the cafe, Sato was still talking about Shu until the people around her noticed Akane's presence and took pictures of her, which made her even more uncomfortable. Arriving at the cafe, it turned out that all the seats were full. Only the seats on the outside were left. Hearing this, Akane immediately panicked, but she tried to get up the courage to sit outside. Sato was still talking about Shu. She was flattered because only Shu, her old friend, still remembered her, while the others had forgotten about her even though she still remembered them. Without realizing it, the people around her looked at her because Sato was too noisy when she was talking. When Akane was about to eat, her strength seemed to lose control again. She destroyed everything that came into contact with her body, including her clothes. Fortunately, Sato swiftly covered Akane's body using her suit. Then she told Akane to go and hide, whereas Sato would distract people. Sato told the people she would propose to Shu and marry him. After that incident, Akane finally survived and thanked Sato. Since then, Akane began to be sincere and entrusting Shu to her. On the other hand, Shu, who was watching television, saw the news about Sato at the cafe earlier. Kanade, who saw this, was a little annoyed. After that, their father told a story while still at school. It turned out that he didn't have any friends. He is always followed by his female servant named Soa wherever he goes, so the people around him find it strange. At that time, he went into the toilet and decided to run away from Soa. Then he went to the school roof to meet a woman who was sleeping, a woman named Satsuki, who became his wife. As he approached, Satsuki suddenly woke up. Then she asked Sakurata to go shopping while skipping school, and Sakurata finally followed her. After shopping, Sakurata took her home, but he was surprised to see Satsuki's house like a boarding house. Upon entering her house, Sakurata was warmly greeted by Satsuki's younger siblings. He also felt at home and ate together because her parents were still working and came home late. When they were eating together, Sakurata felt a different atmosphere, especially since he had only lived with his father and had no siblings, so he still couldn't feel the warmth of family. After everything was over, Sakurata said goodbye to going home, but he asked if Satsuki always slept on the school roof during the break. She answered only when the weather was sunny. Then she asked him to be friends, and Satsuki already knew that Sakurata was a king, and he was flattered. Arriving home, Soa looked panicky, but she was grateful that Sakurata had come home safely. That's the story. Shu is still curious as to why Satsuki can put up with his father, who is a king. Moreover, his father is always the center of attention when he leaves the house. Because he was familiar with Satsuki, he changed to always be friendly to everyone and make his family happy. The next day, Shu met with Sato on the school roof. She was already panicking, fearing that he would be angry with her. Not long after, Shu still couldn't control his strength. He took Sato to the snowy mountains. But she didn't think about it. She thought more that Shu would leave her and cried. But he answered her question yesterday that he would accept her. The next day, Akane campaigned for the umpteenth time, but she was still nervous. Then Aoi appeared to see her campaign. However, Akane left the place because she was too nervous. Arriving home, Aoi saw Hikari, Teru, and Shiori watching a superhero movie. Aoi thought of a new idea. She immediately went to Kanade's room to ask for a tool that could make Akane dare to appear in public. Hearing that, Kanade also wants to help her. She gives Akane an ordinary pair of glasses, but they have to mention in front of Akane that they are disguised glasses. If someone wears those glasses, other people can't recognize them. Aoi then gave the glasses to Akane, and she tried them while meeting Shu. At first, Shu pretended not to recognize her. It's all because of Kanade's direction. Even Teru and Shiori were invited to act to make Akane more confident. The next day, Akane wore the glasses while changing her appearance so that people wouldn't recognize her. Afterward, she went around town and helped people in trouble, including catching thieves. Not long after, the votes were counted again, and Akane's voice increased dramatically because she helped a lot of people. Soon after, Hikari was about to reveal that everyone knew Scarlet Bloom was Akane, but Aoi immediately covered her mouth. The next day, when Akane goes for a walk with Karin, she is still scared when there is a camera. Soon there was a girl about to fall. Akane immediately helped her, and the girl was grateful. After returning from there, Akane forgot not to wear glasses, but strangely, the girl had called her Scarlet Bloom. From there, she realized that everyone knew Scarlet Bloom was her. When Misaki and Haruka wanted to go home, Misaki's friend asked her for help. Because of that, Haruka had to do the speech himself. Meanwhile, Shu started his first campaign, assisted by Sato. In the afternoon, when Haruka was writing a speech, Misaki came home with a tired face. She seems to have no desire to become king anymore, but Haruka tries to restore her confidence. The next day, Aoi was out for a walk with her friends. They meet Misaki, who was doing her first campaign. But her presence made her the center of attention, so she chose to leave. At first, she wanted to invite her friends to have tea together, but they already had their respective appointments, so Aoi was left alone. Finally, Aoi drank tea alone. She thought that if she became a king, she would be lonely like that. Not long after, one of her friends sent a message that she was canceling her departure. Aoi was happy because she could hang out with her friend. Then she went straight to her friend's apartment. She looked impatient because she hadn't been there in a long time. But her friend told Aoi to wait for outside first because her friend would clean up her apartment. After finishing, Aoi was told to come in, but the place seemed dark. When she turned on the light in the room, it turned out that her friends had given her a surprise because today was her birthday. She was happy even though she wasn't the king. The most important thing for her was to have close and warm friends. On the other hand, Aoi's sisters are also planning to give a surprise. But when they were about to make a plan, Aoi already knew it. Soon after, Sachan saw the new king's vote, and it seemed that Aoi was still leading the first place. Sachan didn't care who would be the winner because the king lived well and only thought of himself. On the other hand, Akane adores Sachan. She wants to talk to her, but Hikari doesn't allow it. The next day, Hikari was warned by the manager that the announcement of the king's vote was just around the corner, and she was asked to reveal her identity to her fans. It turned out that Sachan was also walking towards the manager's room feeling excited, but she heard Hikari and the manager talking about the farewell concert. Hearing this, Sachan was scared because the last concert could be for her. Not long after that, she entered the room. They seemed to be silent to each other. Then the manager announced that there would be another double concert, but Hikari and Sachan were silent. Long story short, when the concert was going to be held, the assistant manager couldn't attend because he had influenza. Hikari also suggested that Akane should replace her assistant position because Akane would cover up her real identity. Knowing this, Akane was very happy, especially when she could shake hands directly with Sachan. After that, Hikari and Sachan practiced dance but seemed unfocused because they thought about many things. Afterward, Sachan said goodbye to buying water first, but she didn't bring her wallet. She was unsure whether to return, so she just took a free drink. On the other hand, Hikari tells the manager that she refuses to reveal her identity to the public. Because at first, she joined idols for political needs, but after going through it, she only thought about wanting to appear for her fans. She said she would focus on idols. Unbeknownst to her, Sachan was listening to their conversation from behind the door. Arriving at Hikari's house, she asks Aoi for advice on how she can be honest with Sachan about her identity. After the concert arrived and was about to perform, Hikari used that time to be honest with Sachan, that she was actually the king's daughter. But Sachan doesn't care about her status. According to her, if they enter the idol world, they are the same, so there's no problem. After that, Hikari was relieved. Finally, they could perform the concert smoothly. While Kanade was going shopping alone, on the way, she meets Shu and Sato, who plan for Shu's campaign. While buying meat, Kanade saw small children who made her remember her past when she harmed Shu. Not long after, Shu came to the same butcher shop to buy sausages because Kanade met him, and he finally accompanied her shopping. After finishing shopping, he asked her to go home by disappearing, but she didn't want to because she wanted to walk so she could greet people. On the way, Shu said that he didn't want Kanade to become king just because she wanted to heal his leg. However, Kanade would still do it because it was her big mistake. Hearing that, Shu tried to stop her since that incident also happened long ago. Finally, they argued until Kanade was annoyed and left him. Suddenly, there is a strong wind that blows. The wind made the building materials above Kanade fall. Luckily, Shu was able to save her in time. He had twice saved Kanade, but he replied that an older sibling had to take care of his younger siblings. Hearing that, Kanade admitted that she had to rely more on Shu. After returning from there, she was carried by Shu. He asked Kanade to see that he was still strong enough to carry her even though he had an injured leg. Shu told Kanade to be herself and not to become a king just for his sake. After that, she immediately changed her mindset. After that incident, Kanade's aura became different, as if she had no weight in her life. While Akane and Karen, who were walking, met Misaki, who was helping an old man sweep the field. Then the two of them also met Shu, whose campaign schedule has now been arranged by Sato. A month before the election, Aoi was still in first place, even though she had not done any campaigns or other social activities. Meanwhile, the other siblings are serious about running campaigns and social activities, including Misaki, who helps people on the road almost every day. On the other hand, Hikari starts to stay away from politics and chooses to focus on the idol world. While Akane has run her 100th campaign, she still looks nervous. Currently, the score has not moved at all. Teru, who has worked hard, only got one additional point. Haruka tells him not to underestimate one vote because one vote means a lot when making an election. Akane also wanted to get input from Haruka, but he only advised not to get nervous in front of a crowd. Hikari felt strange, why Akane didn't want to be the center of attention. Then, Kanade told her the reason. When Akane was a child, there was no such thing as CCTV on the street. At that time, Akane wanted to go to Karen's place, but many bodyguards followed her. It made her uncomfortable, but it was the king's decree that it should be like that, especially since Akane has often lost control. Because she thought that Karen would be scared to see her bodyguards, Akane decided to stay away from all of them. Shortly after, Karen invites Akane to play at her house because her parents are not home yet. But when they got home, they heard a voice inside Karen's house. She thought it was her father, but it turned out the man was a thief. They were panicked, but Akane, who at that time wanted to be the Earth's savior, immediately fought the thief by throwing a doll. Akane was very calm in dealing with him even though she was underestimated. After that, she used her strength, but suddenly she lost control. As a result, her power destroys part of Karen's house and manages to catch the thief. Shortly after, people gathered around to look strangely at her, and since then, she has become afraid to be the center of attention. Even though she had helped Karen, Akane still damaged her house, so she was afraid. That's why Akane wants to be king so she can eliminate all CCTV on the street. Soon after, Aoi received an incoming call telling her their father was in trouble. Her father had joint pain after carrying their mother, even though he had many important schedules. As part of the royal family, Aoi must help with her father's work. She began to divide tasks among her siblings. Akane was in charge of visiting the village hit by the landslide with Shu and Teru. Upon arrival, Shu immediately helped the residents clear the landslide, blocking the road while Akane talked to the residents. They were all very happy because they received attention and a visit from the royal family. According to residents, currently in their area having water shortages, Shu immediately presented a water tank in an instant. Not long after, Teru came to give the news that the village road could be traversed again, and the residents were very grateful to him. While acting, Akane forgot to wear her disguise glasses, but the children there called her Scarlet Bloom. Since then, she has chosen to throw away the glasses and try to be herself, while the other siblings were carrying out their respective duties. After that incident, Teru's points had increased slightly, but Aoi's number was still in the first rank. Long story short, the election will be held in a week. But before the election, they must deliver their speech one last time. Fukushima was already prepared to support Akane. Soon, Akane approached him to say hello. She said her friends would definitely vote for her during the general election in her class, but Akane is confused because she hasn't written a speech yet. While Kanade is doing her homework in the student council room, she suddenly gets information that she has been promoted to student council president because the previous leader will graduate. Fortunately, she has prepared her speech. She said she wanted to be a different king and talk about her siblings' kindness in her speech later, which became a plus for her. On the other hand, Aoi still looks relaxed. Her friends tell her about the plans that Kanade has made for the campaign, but she still doesn't want to do anything. Even so, her friends will continue to support Aoi's decision later. Meanwhile, Sato also looks busy helping Shu. She asks her friends to support him. All her friends said if Shu was elected king, he would be busy and not have time to be with her. After that, she told Shu about it, but he replied that he would continue trying to spend time with her no matter what. Next, Misaki also got a lot of support for often helping other clubs. They even gave her a lucky charm. After school, Misaki and Haruka sat on the garden swing while talking. She thought this election would be contested by Aoi, Akane, and Kanade alone. Misaki felt that she had no hope anymore. But Haruka, who can predict, can only make her calm and excited because his predictions are not always right. In the evening, Teru had also prepared his speech. He wanted to be king so much that he wanted to make a promise beyond his own ability. When the day of the king's election arrived, the kingdom was filled with people who wanted to hear the speech of the king's children. The 9 children seemed to be all ready, but when the event started, none of them wanted to make a speech first. In the end, Aoi chose to go first, and there was something she wanted to say. Apparently, she wanted to resign because her power was very dangerous. Once she gave an order, other people would do it. For fear of harming many people, she chose to resign as a result. After Aoi's speech, she received much appreciation from the citizens. Not long after, there was a hot air balloon that lost control. Shu immediately checked. It turned out that the balloon pilot had passed out. He asks Shiori to help control the balloon and is assisted by Akane. The other siblings also tried to help Shu. Then, he told the citizens not to panic because the 9 children would protect them all. Haruka looked for a large vacant lot for the balloon to land on while Kanade took out a net to hold back the friction of the balloon. After that incident, finally, the citizens chose Shu to be king. The next day, Shu introduces Sato to his parent, while Kanade becomes student council president and Misaki studies to be a doctor. The moral that can be learned from this anime is to keep doing your best because we don't know when the highest office will fall into our hands.